The Boeing 777 cruised at 41,000 feet somewhere over the North Atlantic, its passengers lost in the artificial twilight of a red-eye flight from London to Boston. In Seat 10D, the glow from the entertainment screen illuminated weathered hands that had once gripped the stick of an F-16 Viper at 9GS. Those hands belonged to Lieutenant Colonel Maya "Ghost" Reeves, though no one on this civilian flight would have guessed the woman in the worn leather jacket and faded jeans had logged over 3,000 combat hours in Iraq and Afghanistan. The movie playing was ironically appropriate, some Hollywood nonsense about fighter pilots with impossible maneuvers and endless ammunition. Maya allowed herself a slight smirk as the protagonist executed a physically impossible barrel roll while firing missiles in 6 directions. Her fingertips unconsciously traced the edge of her coffee cup, the same way they used to trace pre-flight checks on her instrument panel. 5 years since medical retirement. 5 years since a piece of shrapnel from a surface-to-air missile had ended her Air Force career and left her with a barely visible scar running from her left temple to her jaw. 5 years of being invisible. The captain's voice crackled through the intercom, routine at first. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Morrison speaking. We're currently experiencing..." A pause. Not the practiced pause of someone choosing words carefully, but the frozen pause of disbelief. Maya's hand stopped moving. She knew that pause. She'd heard it in cockpits over Kandahar when pilots spotted unexpected surface-to-air signatures. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to make an unprecedented request. We've received an emergency military communication. Due to a developing situation I cannot fully disclose, we need to know if there are any military pilots aboard. Specifically, anyone with combat fighter experience." The cabin erupted in nervous whispers. Maya's seatmate, a businessman who'd been typing aggressively on his laptop for 3 hours, actually looked up. Flight attendants moved through the aisles with forced calm, their training barely masking their confusion. This wasn't in any manual. Maya remained perfectly still, her mind already calculating. Commercial aircraft didn't receive military communications unless something had gone catastrophically wrong. The Atlantic Corridor was one of the busiest airways in the world, but also one of the most vulnerable. Her eyes tracked to the window, where she could see the faint outline of another aircraft's contrail in the moonlight, parallel to their course but slightly higher. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the way it seemed to be maintaining exact pace with them. The lead flight attendant, a woman whose nameplate read Patricia, reached their row. Her voice was professionally steady, but Maya caught the micro-expressions of someone briefed on information they didn't fully understand. "Excuse me, ma'am, sir, I need to ask, do either of you have any military aviation experience?" The businessman shook his head quickly, eager to distance himself from whatever complexity was developing. Maya felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders like an old flight suit. She could stay silent, stay invisible, stay retired. But her hand was already reaching for her wallet, pulling out the worn military ID she still carried out of habit. "Lieutenant Colonel Maya Reeves," she said quietly. "United States Air Force. Retired." Patricia's eyes widened at the rank, then dropped to read the endorsements. "Fighter qualified?" she asked, though the answer was already visible in Maya's steady gaze. "F-16, F-15, 3,200 combat hours." Maya unbuckled her seatbelt and stood, her body automatically adjusting to the slight turbulence the other passengers hadn't even noticed. "What's the situation?" Patricia's relief was palpable. "The captain needs to speak with you immediately." As they moved toward the cockpit, Maya noticed something the other passengers hadn't. The flight attendants were quietly securing all the service carts, a procedure typically reserved for severe turbulence or emergency landing preparations. Through the windows on both sides of the aircraft, she counted 3 more contrails, all maintaining perfect formation with their aircraft. Whatever was happening, they weren't alone up here. The cockpit door opened before they reached it. Captain Morrison stood in the doorway, and Maya immediately recognized the look in his eyes, the same look she'd seen in forward operating bases when intelligence arrived about imminent threats. "Colonel Reeves," he extended his hand, his grip firm but slightly trembling. "Thank God, we need your help. 20 minutes ago, NORAD contacted us directly. There's been an incident at Thule Air Base in Greenland. Multiple aircraft are down, cause unknown. Every military asset in the North Atlantic is being repositioned, but there's a problem." He gestured for her to enter the cockpit, and Maya stepped into the familiar glow of instruments and displays. The co-pilot, barely 30 by Maya's estimate, looked pale. On the radio, she could hear the clipped tones of military communication cutting through civilian air traffic control. Morrison continued, "15 minutes ago, we started receiving an encrypted military transponder signal. Someone's out there, Colonel. Someone in a military aircraft, running dark except for emergency beacon, no voice comms. They're matching our course and speed exactly." Maya leaned forward, studying the radar display. There it was, a ghost signature that appeared and disappeared, too faint for civilian equipment to properly track, but she recognized the pattern. "That's not someone," she said slowly. "That's something running on autopilot. The transponder cycling suggests pilot incapacitation." She straightened, her mind shifting into the tactical mode she thought she'd left behind. "Captain, I need you to understand something. If NORAD is redirecting assets and we're picking up a ghost bird, this isn't a rescue situation. This is a potential security breach. That aircraft out there might be carrying something that wasn't supposed to leave Greenland." Morrison's face went white. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to establish communication with whoever or whatever is flying that aircraft before someone makes a decision for us." Maya turned to the co-pilot. "Can you patch me into the military emergency frequency?" The young man nodded, fingers flying over the communication panel. Maya picked up the headset, feeling its familiar weight. 5 years dissolved in an instant. She might be sitting in a commercial cockpit wearing civilian clothes, but Lieutenant Colonel Ghost Reeves was back on duty. "Unidentified aircraft bearing 270, Angels 41. This is Lieutenant Colonel Reeves, United States Air Force, aboard civilian transport Boeing 777. Respond if able. I say again, this is Colonel Reeves. If you're unable to respond verbally, key your mic twice." Silence, then barely audible through the static, 2 distinct clicks. Someone was alive over there. Maya felt her pulse quicken. "Aircraft confirmed alive. Understand you may be experiencing equipment failure or medical emergency. Key once for equipment, twice for medical." A single click followed by a pause, then 2 more clicks. Both. Maya's jaw tightened. A pilot in medical distress with equipment failure, running on autopilot over the North Atlantic. She turned to Morrison. "Captain, we have a problem. That's likely a fighter or reconnaissance aircraft with classified equipment, a dying pilot, and enough fuel to make landfall. If they're from Thule, they're probably carrying surveillance data from the incident. NORAD can't shoot them down without losing that intel, but they can't let them crash in a populated area either." "So what do they do?" Morrison asked, though his expression suggested he already suspected the answer. "They use us," Maya said grimly. "A civilian aircraft with a qualified military pilot aboard, plausible deniability if something goes wrong, and someone on scene who might be able to help if it goes right." She keyed the radio again. "Unidentified aircraft, this is Ghost. Yes, Ghost. If you're military, you know that call sign. I'm going to talk you through this. Key twice if you understand." 2 clicks, stronger this time. Whoever was over there was fighting to stay conscious. The next transmission made Maya's blood run cold. It wasn't from the distressed aircraft. It came through the military emergency channel, crystal clear and bearing authentication codes she recognized as Special Operations Command. "Ghost, this is SOCOM Actual. Confirm your identity with authentication sequence." Maya rattled off numbers she hadn't used in 5 years, pulled from memory that military training had burned too deep to forget. "Authenticated. Ghost, we have a situation. That aircraft is carrying Priority 1 intelligence about the Greenland event. The pilot is Lieutenant Jessica Park, call sign Valor. She's been exposed to an unknown agent during reconnaissance of the Thule site. Medical telemetry suggests rapid deterioration. We need that aircraft and its data intact, but we cannot risk contamination of populated areas. Understood, SOCOM. What's my operational authority? Full tactical discretion, Colonel. Your commission is hereby reactivated under emergency protocols. The aircraft Valor is flying is an experimental reconnaissance platform, designation classified. It has autopilot capability but requires manual landing. Valor's condition is deteriorating faster than expected. We estimate 30 minutes before complete incapacitation, possibly less. Maya did the math instantly. 30 minutes put them still over water, but not by much. SOCOM Ghost, I need you to vector us to the nearest suitable landing field that can be isolated, and I need you to tell me exactly what Valor was exposed to. The pause was telling. Unknown, Ghost. Thule reported a biological anomaly before going dark. 15 aircraft attempted reconnaissance. Valor is the only one still airborne. 14 aircraft down. Maya felt the weight of that number. Whatever was happening at Thule had knocked military aircraft out of the sky, and now they had one survivor, dying slowly in a cockpit miles away, carrying intelligence that might explain what they were facing. She looked at Morrison and his co-pilot, both civilians who'd signed up for nothing more dangerous than transatlantic passenger service. Captain, I need you to understand that we're now part of a military operation. I can't order you to participate, but... Colonel, Morrison interrupted, we have 280 souls on board. If that aircraft out there poses a threat, we need to help. Tell us what you need. Maya nodded, respect for the civilian pilot growing. I need to transfer to that aircraft. The words hung in the air like an impossibility. Morrison's mouth opened, then closed. The co-pilot actually laughed, thinking it was a joke. Maya wasn't smiling. It's been done before. Military aircraft have emergency docking capabilities for exactly this scenario, but I'll need your help to position us correctly. You're talking about a mid-air transfer at 41,000 feet, Morrison said slowly. At night, between a commercial aircraft and what sounds like a fighter jet. Actually, Maya corrected, studying the radar signature more carefully. Given the speed matching capability and the signature pattern, I think it's something bigger. Maybe an adapted reconnaissance variant, which means it might have a rear docking port. SOCOM, confirm aircraft type. Ghost, we cannot confirm classification over civilian channels, but your assessment is directionally correct. The aircraft has emergency personnel transfer capability. Uploading approach protocols to your civilian navigation system now. Maya watched as Morrison's flight computer suddenly displayed military overlay data, approach vectors she'd only seen in classified training scenarios. Whatever was happening at Greenland had the military scared enough to break dozens of protocols. She keyed the radio to Valor's aircraft again. Valor, this is Ghost. I know you're fighting to stay conscious. I need you to listen carefully. I'm coming to help. You just need to hold on for 15 more minutes. Can you activate your emergency docking beacon? There was a long pause, then 2 clicks, weak but determined. Maya could almost feel the other pilot's struggle, alone in a cockpit, fighting whatever was slowly killing her while trying to bring home intelligence that might save lives. Good girl, Maya murmured, forgetting radio protocol for a moment. Stay with me, Valor. She turned to Morrison. Captain, I need you to gradually adjust course to 265, decrease altitude to Angels 39, and reduce speed by 15 knots. It needs to look like normal turbulence adjustment to your passengers. Can you do that without raising alarms? Morrison was already reaching for the controls. Colonel, I flew C-130s in the first Gulf War before going commercial. I can handle it. The admission surprised Maya, but she could see it now in the way he handled the aircraft, the military precision beneath the civilian polish. What about cabin pressure? If we're doing what I think we're doing, we'll need to equalize gradually, Maya confirmed. Tell the cabin crew it's standard pressure adjustment for weather. Nobody needs to know what's really happening until it's over. She paused, then added, one way or another. The Boeing began its subtle course correction, and through the window, Maya could see the ghost aircraft adjusting to maintain relative position. Whoever had programmed that autopilot knew what they were doing. The experimental aircraft was now visible in the moonlight, sleek, larger than an F-16 but smaller than a bomber, with unusual sensor pods she didn't recognize. It was flying perfectly level, but she could see slight wobbles in its navigation lights that suggested the pilot was struggling with the controls. Ghost SOCOM. Be advised, Valor's medical telemetry shows accelerated degradation. Heart rate critical, oxygen saturation dropping. Whatever you're going to do. Copy SOCOM, beginning approach now. Maya moved toward the cabin door, then paused. Captain Morrison, whatever happens, protect your passengers. If this goes wrong. It won't, Morrison said firmly. Go get our pilot home, Colonel. Maya moved through the first-class cabin, where Patricia was waiting with two other flight attendants. They'd clearly been briefed on something, though probably not the full truth. Ma'am, we've prepared the rear galley area as requested. The passengers have been told we're experiencing minor technical issues that require crew repositioning. Good, I need aviation emergency equipment if you have it. Oxygen, first aid, anything rated for altitude. Maya's mind was already running through the procedure. The rear galley had an emergency exit that could be modified for what she was about to attempt. It had been done exactly twice in military history, both times in desperate circumstances. Both times the transferring personnel had survived. Barely. As they moved through the aircraft, Maya noticed the passengers were largely oblivious. Some were sleeping, others watching movies or reading. A young girl in 23C was drawing in a notebook, her picture showing an airplane among stars. Maya wondered if any of them would ever know how close they were coming to history or disaster. The rear galley was cramped but serviceable. Through the small window, Maya could see Valor's aircraft had adjusted position, now flying slightly below and behind them. The docking lights were on, a sequence of blue and red that would guide the approach, but something was wrong. The aircraft was listing slightly, as if Valor was losing her fight to stay conscious. Maya grabbed the intercom. Morrison, Ghost, we have a problem. Valor's losing it. I need you to. She stopped. Through the window, she saw the other aircraft suddenly bank hard left, then recover. Valor was having seizures. SOCOM, Ghost. Valor's in medical crisis. I need emergency override codes for her autopilot now. Ghost, override transmitted. You should have control in 3, 2. A new display appeared on the galley's emergency panel, military override systems that Boeing had built into their aircraft after 9/11, but never advertised. Maya's fingers flew over the touchscreen, entering codes she'd memorized during a classified briefing she'd attended years ago about civilian-military aviation integration. Suddenly, she had partial control of Valor's aircraft. Got it, she breathed, stabilizing the other plane's flight path. But the medical telemetry streaming across the screen made her stomach clench. Valor's vitals were crashing. Heart rate erratic, body temperature dropping, oxygen levels critical. Whatever she'd been exposed to at Thule was killing her faster than predicted. Maya made a decision that would have been unthinkable minutes ago. Morrison, I need you to depressurize the rear cargo hold and open the freight door. Colonel, that's the only way. Valor won't survive long enough for a standard transfer. I'm going to have to jump. Silence on the radio. Then Morrison's voice, steady and professional. Understood, Colonel, depressurizing now. Godspeed. Maya pulled on the emergency oxygen mask Patricia handed her, checking the portable supply. 15 minutes, maybe 20 if she controlled her breathing. The flight attendants were evacuating the rear section, moving passengers forward with practiced efficiency and calm explanations about routine safety procedures. Through it all, Maya kept her eyes on Valor's telemetry. The young pilot's heart was barely beating. The cargo hold door warning lights began flashing. Maya felt the temperature drop instantly as the pressurization changed. Her ears popped painfully, but she'd felt worse in rapid combat descents. The freight door mechanism engaged, and suddenly she was looking at open sky at 39,000 feet. The wind was brutal, well below freezing, trying to tear her from the aircraft. Valor's plane was there, 20 meters away, its emergency docking hatch glowing like a promise in the darkness. 20 meters at 39,000 feet, with winds over 200 miles per hour. Maya had made impossible shots in combat, threading missiles through canyon walls and landing damaged aircraft on carriers in storms. But this was different. This was insane. She thought of Valor, alone and dying, carrying intelligence that might prevent whatever had happened at Thule from spreading. She thought of the 14 aircraft that hadn't made it. She thought of her call sign, Ghost, earned because she could appear where nobody expected her. Maya jumped. The wind hit her like a physical wall, threatening to tear her apart. She had no parachute, no wingsuit, nothing but momentum and angles calculated in a split second of military instinct. The sides of both aircraft created a wind tunnel effect that she used to control her trajectory, body positioning learned in high-altitude training keeping her stable. For 3 seconds, she flew between 2 aircraft over the Atlantic, suspended between death and duty. Her hands caught the emergency handle of Valor's docking hatch. The impact nearly tore her shoulders from their sockets, but she held on, using her momentum to swing into the small airlock as the hatch cycled open. She collapsed inside, gasping, her body shaking from cold and adrenaline. The hatch sealed automatically behind her, pressurization hissing as the small chamber adjusted. Maya had made it. Now came the hard part. The inner hatch opened into the aircraft's main corridor. Maya pulled herself through, immediately hit by the smell, ozone, burnt electronics, and something else, something organic and wrong. Emergency lighting cast red shadows through smoke that shouldn't exist in a sealed aircraft. She moved forward, finding the cockpit door partially open. Through the gap, she could see Valor slumped in the pilot's seat, her flight suit soaked with sweat despite the freezing temperature. "Valor," Maya called out, approaching carefully. "Lieutenant Park, this is Colonel Reeves. I'm here to help." The young pilot's head turned slightly. She was conscious but barely. Asian features, maybe Korean heritage, with the kind of sharp beauty that looked out of place in a combat aircraft. Her eyes were bloodshot, pupils dilated, but there was still intelligence there, still fight. "Ghost," she whispered, voice barely audible through her oxygen mask. "The actual Ghost. They said you were dead." "Not yet, Lieutenant, and neither are you. What happened at Thule?" Valor's hand moved weakly toward a secured case beside her seat. "Not biological," she managed. "Something else, something they woke up. The ice, it was in the ice for millennia. When it thawed," she coughed, specks of blood hitting her mask. 14 aircraft down in 12 minutes. I only survived because..." She gestured at her console where Maya could see modified shielding she didn't recognize. "Experimental protection, but it's failing. You shouldn't be here." Maya was already strapping into the co-pilot seat, taking control of the aircraft. "Yeah, well, I've made worse decisions. What's in the case?" "Sensor data, video, proof." Valor's breathing was getting shallower. "They need to know it's not a weapon, it's something older, something that shouldn't exist." "Save your strength, we're getting you home." Maya checked their position. The Irish coast was still hundreds of miles away. Morrison's Boeing was pulling ahead, returning to normal flight path. She was alone with a dying pilot and an aircraft full of secrets. "SOCOM, Ghost. I have control of the aircraft. Valor is critical but alive. Need immediate medical team on landing." "Copy, Ghost. Diverting you to RAF Machrihanish. Medical team standing by. Be advised, quarantine protocols are in effect." Quarantine. Maya looked at Valor, whose eyes had closed. The young pilot was fighting, but whatever she'd been exposed to was winning. Maya increased speed, pushing the experimental aircraft to its limits. The engines responded with power she didn't expect. This thing was faster than anything she'd flown. But speed meant nothing if Valor died before they landed. "Lieutenant, talk to me. Tell me about the ice. Keep talking." Valor's eyes fluttered open. Greenland ice sheet. Climate change melting faster than predicted. They found something, structure, not natural. When they tried to extract samples, it activated. Defensive mechanism, maybe, or maybe it just woke up. The energy discharge instruments couldn't classify it. Not nuclear, not chemical, not biological, something else. Something that targets consciousness itself. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with altitude. Consciousness. Pilots reported hallucinations before going down, memories that weren't theirs, languages they didn't speak. Then seizures, system failure, death. I watched them fall like birds hitting windows, beautiful and terrible, the sky full of dying stars. Valor was becoming delirious, but her words painted a horrifying picture. Something ancient, frozen in Greenland's ice, now awake and hostile to human consciousness. Maya checked their distance, still an hour out from Machrihanish. She increased speed again, the aircraft groaning but responding. "Valor, stay with me. What's your first name? Tell me about yourself." "Jessica, Jessie." The pilot's voice was fatting. "Nobody calls me that anymore, just Valor. Earned it over Syria when I stayed airborne with half my tail shot off. Landed with vapor in the tanks and shrapnel in my spine. They said I had valor. Really, I was just too stubborn to die." She coughed again. "Looks like I'm finally out of stubbornness." "No, you're not. Jessica Park, you listen to me. You survived 14 aircraft going down. You made it this far. You're going to make it home and tell them what you saw. That's an order, Lieutenant." Valor managed a weak smile. "You can't give orders anymore, Colonel. You're retired." "Apparently not. SOCOM reactivated my commission 20 minutes ago, so as your superior officer I'm ordering you not to die. Clear." "Clear," Valor whispered. Then stronger, "Ghost the case. If I don't make it, the case has to. Password is Prometheus Unbound. The video files, they'll change everything. What we thought we knew about ancient Earth, about evolution, about consciousness itself, it's all wrong. We're not alone. We never were." Maya reached back and secured the case to her vest. "You're going to deliver it yourself." "Maybe." Valor's hand reached out, finding Maya's. Her grip was weak but determined. "Thank you for coming, for jumping. Nobody jumps anymore." "Yeah, well, I always was bad at retirement." Maya squeezed the younger pilot's hand. "Hang on, Valor. We're almost home." The Irish coast appeared on radar, then Scottish airspace. Maya began descent procedures, the experimental aircraft responding smoothly despite the damage she could now see on some systems. Whatever had happened at Thule had left its mark. Electrical systems showed unusual patterns, as if the aircraft itself had been partially affected by the consciousness targeting phenomenon. "Ghost, Machrihanish Control. We have you on approach. Be advised, hazmat and medical teams are standing by. You'll be directed to isolated runway 37. Copy, Machrihanish. Be advised, pilot is critical. May need emergency extraction." Maya brought them down through cloud cover, the Scottish landscape emerging gray and forbidding in the dawn light. She could see the airfield ahead, emergency vehicles lined up, their lights creating a constellation on the ground. Beside her, Valor's breathing had become barely visible. The young pilot was at the edge, holding on by will alone. "Landing gear down," Maya announced, though Valor couldn't respond. 300 feet, 200, 100. The runway rushed up to meet them. Maya had landed damaged aircraft before, but never one carrying the weight of what might be humanity's first contact with something truly alien. The wheels touched down perfectly, the experimental aircraft settling onto the runway like it was coming home. Emergency teams swarmed the aircraft before it fully stopped. Maya kept the engines running until the last moment, then shut down all systems. Through the cockpit window, she could see figures in full hazmat suits approaching. The quarantine was real. Whatever Valor had been exposed to, they weren't taking chances. "Valor, Jessica, we made it. We're on the ground." No response. Maya turned to find the young pilot unconscious, her pulse barely detectable. The cockpit door burst open, medical teams flooding in. They moved with practiced efficiency, extracting Valor onto a specialized stretcher, connecting her to life support systems Maya didn't recognize. As they carried her out, one medic turned to Maya. "Colonel, we need to examine you as well. Quarantine protocols." Maya nodded, but first she grabbed the case, handing it to what was clearly a military intelligence officer despite the hazmat suit. "Password is Prometheus Unbound." Lieutenant Park said it would change everything. The officer took the case reverently. "We know who you are, Colonel Reeves. What you did tonight jumping between aircraft, it's already legend. Command wants to debrief you immediately." "After I know she's okay," Maya said firmly, following Valor's stretcher. The young pilot was surrounded by doctors now, their voices urgent but controlled. Maya heard fragments: neural inflammation, unknown protein chains, consciousness markers we've never seen. Whatever had awakened in Greenland's ice, it was rewriting medical science in real time. Hours passed in quarantine. Maya submitted to endless tests, blood draws, scans that looked for contamination she could barely understand. Through it all, she thought about Valor's words, something ancient, something that targeted consciousness itself. The implications were staggering. If true, humanity had just encountered evidence of non-human intelligence, and its first action had been hostile. Finally, a doctor entered her isolation room, removing their hazmat hood to reveal a tired but relieved face. "Colonel Reeves, you're clear. No contamination detected. Whatever protective systems that aircraft had, they worked." "What about Lieutenant Park?" The doctor's expression shifted. "She's alive, stable for now, but what she was exposed to, we're still trying to understand it. It seems to have partially rewritten her neural pathways. She's experiencing memories that aren't hers, knowledge she shouldn't have. She keeps speaking in languages that linguists can't identify, ancient languages that might not be from Earth." Maya stood, needing to see for herself. The doctor led her through decontamination, then to a secured medical wing. Through observation windows, she could see Valor connected to dozens of machines, her eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids as if experiencing dreams too vast for human comprehension. "She saved us all," Maya said quietly. "If that intelligence at Thule had spread without warning, without the data she brought back—" "We know," the doctor interrupted. "The case contained footage of the entity. It's unsettling. Command is assembling teams, but they wanted you to see her first. She's been asking for you. Well, when she's lucid." Maya entered the room carefully. Valor's eyes opened, focusing with difficulty. "Ghost," she whispered, "you stayed." "Told you we'd make it home." Maya pulled a chair close to the bed. "How are you feeling?" "Like my mind is a library someone else is reading. I can feel it, the thing from the ice. Not here, not anymore, but the echo of it. It showed me things. The Earth before humans, cities under ice, technologies we haven't dreamed of. It's been waiting so long, trapped, furious at being forgotten." "The video files." "Will show them what I saw. The structure in the ice wasn't a building, it was a prison. We didn't release a weapon, we released a prisoner. Something ancient civilizations locked away because they couldn't destroy it." Valor's hand found Maya's again. "It's going back to sleep, I think. The exposure, the cold, wasn't right for it to fully wake, but it'll try again. When the ice melts more, when conditions are right, we have maybe a decade to prepare." "Then we'll prepare," Maya said firmly. "Humanity's good at that." Valor smiled weakly. "You jumped between planes for someone you'd never met. Maybe we have a chance." Her expression grew serious. "They'll want to study me. What's in my head? I might not be me anymore when they're done. You'll always be the pilot who flew through hell to bring home the truth. That's who you are, no matter what they find in your head." A knock at the door interrupted them. General Harrison entered, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. Maya recognized him from her active duty days, a good officer who'd risen to Joint Chiefs level. "Colonel Reeves, Lieutenant Park, I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "Sir," both women responded automatically, though Valor could barely manage the word. "What you two accomplished tonight has implications beyond military protocol. Lieutenant Park, the intelligence you recovered suggests we're dealing with something that predates human civilization. Colonel Reeves, your actions proved we can respond to unprecedented threats with innovation and courage. We're forming a new division, Project Prometheus, dedicated to understanding and preparing for what's coming. I want you both involved." Maya looked at Valor, then back at the general. "Sir, I'm retired, medical discharge." "We're retired," Harrison corrected. "Your commission is permanently reactivated as of tonight. Full benefits, full rank, full authority. We need you, Colonel. Both of you." Lieutenant Park's unique exposure makes her invaluable for understanding this entity. Your experience and proven ability to operate under impossible conditions makes you essential for developing response protocols. "And if we refuse?" Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then we face whatever's in that ice with two fewer heroes. And from what I've seen in those video files, we need all the heroes we can get." Valor struggled to sit up slightly. "General, what I saw, it wasn't just one entity. There were references to others, plural. The thing in the ice was afraid of something else, something worse. It was running from something when it was imprisoned." The room fell silent. The implications of that statement hung heavy in the air. If the entity that had killed 14 pilots and nearly destroyed Valor was running from something worse, what did that mean for humanity's future? "All the more reason we need you both," Harrison said finally. "The President has authorized unlimited resources for Project Prometheus. We're establishing a base at Thule, reinforced and shielded based on what we learned tonight. Colonel Reeves, you'll lead the tactical response team. Lieutenant Park, once you're recovered, you'll head the Consciousness Research Division." "Consciousness research?" Valor asked. "The entity targeted human consciousness specifically. We need to understand why and how to defend against it. Your survival and current conditions suggest you might have developed some immunity or adaptation. That could be the key to everything." Maya stood. "Sir, with respect, Lieutenant Park needs time to recover. Whatever decisions need to be made." "Can wait," Harrison agreed. "But not long. The ice is melting faster every year. Whatever else is frozen up there, we need to be ready when it wakes up." He turned to leave, then paused. "Colonel, what you did tonight jumping between aircraft, it's going to be classified beyond top secret. But I want you to know it's the kind of courage that reminds us why we serve. Welcome back to active duty." After he left, Maya and Valor sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Valor spoke. "You could have stayed retired, stayed invisible." "So could you. You could have ejected, saved yourself, let the data burn up. But you didn't." "We're both idiots," Valor said with a weak laugh. "Yeah," Maya agreed. "But apparently the world needs idiots like us." Outside the window, dawn was breaking over Scotland. The sky was clear, peaceful, giving no sign of the ancient threats hidden in melting ice or the consciousness-altering entities that predated human existence. But Maya knew, as did Valor, that everything had changed tonight. Humanity had made contact with something other, something hostile, something that suggested Earth's history was far stranger than anyone imagined. "Ghost?" Valor's voice was growing tired again, the medications pulling her back towards sleep. "Yeah. That thing in the ice, when it touched my mind, I saw its memories. Earth millions of years ago. There were cities, civilizations, wars we can't imagine. Humans weren't the first intelligent species on this planet. We might not be the last." "Then we'd better make sure we're the smartest," Maya said. "Get some rest, Valor. Tomorrow we start preparing for whatever's coming." As Valor drifted off to sleep, Maya stood watch. It was a familiar feeling, protecting a fellow pilot, even after the mission was over. But this mission, she realized, was just beginning. Whatever had awakened in Greenland's ice was only the first note in a symphony of revelations about to shake humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The young girl's drawing from Seat 23C flashed in Maya's memory, an airplane among stars. If only she knew how prophetic that image was. Humanity was about to learn it wasn't flying alone in the cosmic dark. There were other passengers on this journey, older, stranger, and possibly hostile. But tonight had proven something important. When faced with the impossible, humans could still surprise themselves with courage. Maya looked at Valor, whose face had finally relaxed into peaceful sleep, despite the alien memories coursing through her neurons.